Yeah, you know the VHS tapes I'm talking about. You may have even found a few with a picture of me sporting a hideous spandex ensemble complete with a clash of neon colors that would burn your eyes out if you looked at them too long. The early 90s was a hell of a time. These tapes were more than likely found buried deep in your mom's closet, usually hidden underneath a 20-year-old pair of cross trainers and an aerobic stepper that never served to be anything more than a dust farm. We sold the dream of getting buns of steel in your own home for a modest price of, get this, $59.95 in 1991. I'm no economist, but if you're interested in finding out what that would cost today, be my guest. At the time, I was 26, living the life of my dreams, and in the best shape I'd ever be. I was far too young, and my proverbial glasses were much too rosy to realize the product we were dishing out, and with great volume, was nothing more than a predatorial VHS preying on post-pregnancy mothers and women with low self-esteem. In my youthful ignorance, I truly thought I was changing the world and helping others by teaching them health and fitness in the comfort of their own living rooms. But let's be real, how many people were actually going to play a 60-minute videotape every day, until they looked like the people they were idolizing in the videos? Here's the answer, 0. Even if they did have willpower made of steel, and buns that weren't, every person on the TV traded their youth for spending far too many hours in the gym every single day. The VHS alone wasn't going to cut it. After the first workout video gained momentum, quickly finding its way into the homes of women desperate to wear pants sized in single digits, and the dark dungeons of perverted men looking for a vigorous elbow workout, the fan mail started flooding my P.O. box. The letters were full of the kindest words from strong women actively trying to better themselves, while others were from the aforementioned men who liked to seal their envelopes with their special adhesive, if you catch what I'm saying. Of all the letters I had received, there was one batch from a particular sender that I saved for reasons I don't know how to talk about. We will call this sender Janie. Most people's fan mail consisted of a paragraph or two, but not Janie's. Her letters were beautifully written tomes of thanks, praise, and inspiring stories of progress. According to Janie's first letter, which was 4 pages long, she was 22 and struggled with her weight since childhood. She had tried going to the gym and filling her fridge with all the popular fad diet nonsense peddled by all the sleazy gurus and grifters found in the dollar ad section near the back of any women's magazine, but none of it had worked and the weight continued to pile on incrementally until she felt she had reached a point of no return. Nothing had ever worked until now, the letter said. But, you miss, you are a godsend. Ever since popping the tape into my VHS player, I am so excited to say that I've lost 6 pounds. This tape is worth every penny. I feel like I've gotten to know you so well since exercising with you in my living room. It's starting to feel like we are becoming great friends. I already can't wait for the next one. I had read many fan letters, but Janie's letter was so heartfelt and charming that I felt like I had no choice but to write back. It was obviously impossible to track the progress of every person who had purchased my tapes, but if I could just keep track of one, just change one person's life, in this case, Janie's, then I guess I would selfishly feel like my work wasn't in vain and had real meaning. 8 months after our first video release, our sales skyrocketed. Everywhere you turned, there was my face covered in bronzer with the biggest and brightest smile just begging you to put the VHS in your basket without thinking about its astronomically high price. And don't even get me started on our branded workout equipment that made every mom in the country have to decide between feeding their children for the week or getting the latest ankle weights from our studio. It was a craze, a total hysteria that swept the nation, and I was the queen of crazy sitting high on my throne of aerobic steppers and 1-pound rubber dumbbells. Every weekend, I was in a new city performing workout routines on every local news station's morning show. In each new city, I'd find a gym, and in each new gym, I found swaths of people demanding my attention and begging for tips on how to get those buns I promised. As someone who made sweating a lifestyle, I didn't know what tired was until the constant travel and my 15 minutes of fame demanded its toll. As if I wasn't already tired enough, the studio wanted to take advantage of my newfound fame and our fans' willingness to fork over their hard-earned cash by scheduling a 6-month countrywide tour to milk these poor people for everything they had. For only $399, mind you this was in 1991, you could come work out with me, complete with neon sweatbands and one of those stupid-looking microphone headsets, in a musty event center to drip your sweat all over their already filthy carpets. I found the idea to be ludicrous until the whole tour sold out in less than a week. The tour didn't start for another year, which gave me plenty of time to rid myself of all the dread that came with putting on a bright, smiling face each day for the ladies that scoured their couch cushions for each nickel they could find to pay for their ridiculously overpriced ticket. Believe it or not, I too had emotions, and nothing was worse than having to be on when I was having a bad day. You learn not to show your pain in showbiz, and my pain came from my longing to be home. I missed it dearly. I missed my friends, my mom and dad. Everything that was truly important to me had been left behind to chase this dream I stumbled upon. The only thing that had kept me going were my letters from Janie. Each time I got to go home, I went to the post office to collect my mail. Sure enough, there was always a bushel of letters waiting for me. I'd sift through the mix, discarding the majority of letters, while looking for Janie's. As much as I was motivating her, this random girl was motivating me. Her letters, rich with stories of victories and triumphs, made me want to press forward. Hey girlie. Just wanted to give you another update. I've lost a total of 13 pounds. I didn't think it was possible, but I'm actually doing it. They said Michelangelo would look at a hunk of rock and see the beauty inside it and chipped away piece by piece, until the world could see the beauty he saw. Now, when I look in the mirror, I can see the beauty. Still a ton of rock to chip away, but it's like you're my Michelangelo and I'm your rock. I'll have people gawking at me in no time. P.S. I heard about your tour. I already have my tickets. I can't wait to meet you, St. Louis. Janie, I by no means consider myself a Michelangelo, but in an odd way, Janie was my rock. Janie was my beacon of hope, my hope being that if I made such an impact on her life, I was making an impact on many others. Throughout the year leading up to the tour, Janie and I became great pen pals. I looked forward to her letters so much that I'd share the address of the hotels I was staying in, so I didn't have to wait until I got home to read her encouraging words. You're making women across the country feel so good about themselves. My chin has never been higher. You're kicking so much ass out there. I had a friend record your routine on the Cleveland morning show and ship it to me. Girl, you look so good. Keep up the great work. I know you're exhausted from all the travel, but keep this in mind, what you're feeling is what it feels like to change the world. Everywhere I went, people were demanding my time in one way or another, but Janie, some girl from Missouri that I had never met, seemed like the only person who didn't want anything from me at all. All she wanted was to know that I was doing all right, and because of her and some of the words you just read above, I was. As our letter exchange continued, we slowly diverted from talking about fitness, always sure to keep each other updated on progress and goals, and began talking more about things any two 20-somethings would talk about: boys, dreams, fears, anxieties, etc. However, towards the end of the year, something strange happened. Her letters began taking a dark turn. Some days I look in the mirror and feel so ashamed of myself. Honestly, if it weren't for these letters, I might not even be here right now. So, I had a date last week and things were going so well until I screwed everything up. I always screw everything up. The evening was absolutely perfect until the waiter came up to us after our meal, looked right at me and said, "You look like you're ready for dessert." Can you believe that? I don't know what got into me, but I completely snapped. I stood up and started freaking out at him. I was just like, what? You think I look like I'm ready for dessert because I'm fat? Go ahead, call me a cow. Do it. Everyone in the restaurant was staring at me. I was so enraged that I took my plate and chucked it at him. I completely lost control. I am so fucking worthless. I hate myself. I've tried so hard. So hard. Nothing is working anymore. All of your advice, your routines, your exercises, your diet recommendations, all bullshit. I even bought your brand of scale and that thing isn't even working anymore. People still laugh at me when I walk down the street. I am still spilling out of my clothes. You're a liar. A scam artist. This is my last letter. Have a good life. I couldn't believe what I was reading. Up until that awful string of letters, she always sounded like the sweetest human. I was so used to reading words of positivity, but these read like they were written by a completely different person, some paragraphs being indecipherable due to multiple lines of running ink on the tear-soaked paper. To some degree, I felt responsible. If only I had a number to call, or a hug to give. God, how I had hoped she wasn't going to do what I thought she was going to do. I immediately grabbed my pen and paper and began writing her, careful not to saturate the letter in tears of my own. It was just a rough patch that everyone goes through, I've had a few of them myself. I thought of every positive word of encouragement known to the world as I drove my pen deep into the paper. I needed her to be okay. After 2 weeks without hearing from her, I decided to pick up the phone and contact the St. Louis Police Department and ask that they do a wellness check on Janie. For 4 hours I sat in my living room staring at my phone until the ringer made my heart crawl into the back of my throat. I wasn't ready to hear them tell me my own horror story that was playing through my head. The police said they went to her house and made contact with Janie, however, they made sure to mention that she wouldn't let them inside. She kept telling them to go away and that nobody needed to see me like this. My heart was completely broken. I had been there. I was once that girl who hated the way she looked, embarrassed because my body carried a few more pounds than the women emblazoned across any advertisement the eyes could see. This was my opportunity to make a serious change in someone's life, and there wasn't any time to waste. The first time I was able to sleep since hearing from the police was during my flight to St. Louis. It had been 3 days since I had gotten the call. I was so tired that I didn't even make it through the takeoff, and was the last person on the plane when the flight attendant gently pulled me from my sleep, saying with a smile, "Unless you want to come with us to Tallahassee, now's your chance to get to where you were going." I grabbed my carry-on from the overhead and dashed out of the plane. The airport is one of few public places you can sprint without people batting an eye, and thank God for that, because I was hauling. By the time I got outside and hailed a cab, I was glistening with sweat and forcing air deep into my lungs. "Where to?" asked the cab driver. I gave him the address and he pulled out into the long line of stop-and-go vehicles all fighting to get home. Getting out of the airport was a grueling battle of inches. All I could see was what I imagined Janie's face to look like, completely saturated in tears that were piercing through her umbrella of self-shame. With a sense of desperation and hope that just one hug could change someone's life forever, I held myself in my own arms, visualizing the tender embrace I was going to give to my pen pal. "Hey," said the cab driver. "Aren't you that girl from those exercise tapes?" I couldn't escape it. "Please don't be a pervert. Please." "No," I chuckled. "But that's not the first time I've been asked that." The cab driver kept eyeing me up. No, that's definitely you. Wow, my wife had me buy your tape and your whole little kit for her birthday. I'm a terrible liar. I guess I'm busted. You got me. How's her fitness journey coming along?" "Well, everything I bought her journeyed its way right into the closet. I think she used the stuff twice. Has this what my work has come to? Was I just another fad, a guru taking advantage of other people's insecurities? No, it couldn't be. One of those people wouldn't fly across the country to check on a loyal follower. I was better than that, I think." The cab ride was about 20 minutes, and for 18 of them, all this guy did was ask me about my work and if I ever planned on coming out with a tape that's a little more revealing. When we finally pulled up to Janie's house, I was relieved to exit the cab but was instantly hit with dread when I saw Janie's front door, and couldn't stop myself from wondering what I would find on the other side. Where I was, with one foot on the ground and the other in the cab, was some sort of hellish purgatory pulling me both ways in a battle to decide which foot to lean into. I felt crazy for what I was about to do. After taking a deep breath, I headed towards the door and rang the bell. If heartbeats were seconds, I would have stood there for 10 minutes in the amount of time it would have taken an apple to fall from a tree. My throat was so dry from my nerves that when I called her name through the door, it came out as a hoarse cry barely above a whisper. The weight became unbearable as terrible images of what she could have done to herself flooded my brain. I turned the knob and slowly peeked through the door. "Janie?" I called again. Nothing. Every part of me told me to bail except for my right foot, which dragged me into the house. With each step I took, glass crackled underneath my feet. On the floor and a few barely hanging from the walls were shattered picture frames. I picked up a couple to take a look, and what I saw took me by complete surprise. In the frames were pictures of Janie, but the pictures certainly weren't the same Janie that were described in the letters. Janie was stunningly gorgeous through and through. Her dark, loosely curled hair draped over her strong shoulders, and her hands were placed on her narrow hips in a power pose that was highlighted by her strikingly blue eyes. She looked like she could be on the covers of fitness tapes. I want to be polite in saying this, but the way she described herself in the letters, I fully expected her to be a little heavier. In the other room, I heard a sound coming from the television that was all too familiar. When I turned the corner, I saw my own face staring straight back at me on the TV, and underneath it were recorded VHS tapes of every single morning show I had ever done. On every wall were posters of me, some with Janie's face cut out and glued over mine. The room stunk of sweat, and the wet carpet beneath my feet seemed to be the source. Squat, turn, and feel the burn, and squat, turn, and feel the burn, my voice said through the TV. That's when I heard the crying. Janie? I said again. Janie, it's Amanda. Are you all right? Where are you, babe? I worked my way down the hall and followed the sounds of the cries. With each step I took, the cries became more intense. I peeked through each open door looking for Janie when a stench slapped me in the face. One of the open doors was to a bathroom. The mirror was literally everywhere except for the wall, its tiny shards edged with blood that trailed down the hall. The toilet was overflowing with vomit. Oh my God! Janie! I screamed as I followed the trail of blood to the closed door at the end of the hall. When I opened the door, air shot down my windpipe so fast that I nearly blew out the bottoms of my lungs. The air quickly rebounded and traveled out the way it came, this time as a shriek that would have cracked any unshattered glass left in the house. Janie stood in front of me completely naked, with one hand poking at her stomach, and the other grabbing at the few strands left of her once beautiful head of dark hair. She stared at me with her yellow, sunken eyes, her cheeks so gaunt I could see the outlines of her teeth. Even in the low light, I could see her heart beating in her sunken chest, her skin so white and thin that the spaces between her ribs looked like shadowed valleys of darkness. Her shaking knees, that looked like nothing more than two beads dangling from two pieces of thread, produced a clacking sound I will never forget, no matter how badly I'd like to. Standing across from me, a once beautiful girl had mutated herself into something alien. Janie! I screamed as I ran to hold her in my arms before she keeled over. You get the hell away from me, her voice was weak. You're nothing but a fraud. I trusted you. Janie, I'm taking you to the hospital. You're not taking me anywhere. I'm done with your help. I did everything you said, did every workout you've ever recorded, ate every meal you ever recommended, and guess what? It's all bullshit. None of it works. None of it. I stood there speechless. The weight just never came off, she said. The weight never came off, no matter how hard I tried. I slowly inched towards her, and for every inch I gained, she took two away. I know you're not feeling well, and that's totally all right. We've all doubted ourselves from time to time, but we really need to get you to a hospital, all right? I promise you'll feel a lot better. I'm tired of your promises, said Janie. But, can I make you a promise? Of course. Anything. Janie stumbled toward the bed. I promise I'll be the last person you ever lie to. When Janie pulled out the gun, I tried running out of the room, but it was already too late. I crashed to the floor, my lower half feeling as if it had evaporated beneath me. The last thing I remember was Janie on top of me with her pistol pointed directly at my face, her cold, malnourished body being what I now imagine as the flesh hiding underneath death's cloak. The next day, I woke up in the hospital. The good news was that I was alive. The bad news was that the bullet went straight through my L4 vertebrae, leaving me without function of my legs. Until I got answers, I sat in the hospital bed alone wondering why Janie didn't finish me off. According to the police, she was dead on arrival. The autopsy would later show that she died of heart failure moments before the point in which my story would go untold. One of the hardest things I've ever had to do was relive that moment in my life, but I believe the message is worth sharing. You may be wondering, do I hate Janie? I think about it, and I think about her every day, and the answer is no. I hate the things in the world that created Janie and will continue to create Janies. I hate the monster I created. I've seen the way people manipulate women's bodies with Photoshop and plaster them all over social media, ultimately creating a deep desire that can't be achieved. I know there are women and men out there right now who look in the mirror and struggle to love themselves, but I am here right now to tell you to love yourself.